So today we are doing something just a little bit different. Today we are looking at skateboarding's most notorious empire, in my opinion. This isn't just any brand, it's the brand that birthed a magazine so wild it made your mom lock the mailbox, laying the blueprint for an entire new genre of entertainment. They even transcended more than just skateboards, they were iconic. But do you know how they ended? And did you know they essentially became the very thing they were trying so hard to rebel against? Let's break it down. So this is World Industries, Steve Roco's baby. But to understand the brand, you gotta know the man. Born in '60, Roco grew up in Southern California's skate scene, a wiry kid with a knack for freestyle skating. Think flat ground tricks, not vert heroics. But by the early 80s, he was good enough to turn pro for Vision. But he wasn't really sipping the corporate Kool-Aid. The skate industry back then, it was a clique of big brands like Powell Peralta, Vision, and Santa Cruz, all about neon graphics and vert ramps. They were called the benevolent dictators with the mantra that skaters can't own a skate company, they're not smart enough. Roco's early years were just pure hustle. He wasn't some trust fund kid, he was a scrapper, funding his dreams with odd jobs and a chip on his shoulder. But by '84, he was already starting to stir a little trouble. Steve was pretty good, don't get me wrong, but once Rodney Mullen, a young kid from Florida, blew up the freestyle scene, Vision let Steve go. Rodney was young, of course, and he was kinda shy, who was just tearing up the freestyle scene and destroying all competition in the area. He and Rodney were friends, but this was devastating. Up until this point, skating was Steve's future. He was hanging out with his friend Skip at the time, complaining, saying how it's all over, when Skip said, "Dude, max out your cards, meet me tomorrow. I'll show you how to make money." Well, Skip did show him how to make money, but not how to be a good businessman at first. Within a month, Steve had started with 6 G's, made 6, then lost 12. So now Roco had a taste of his own business and he wanted more. He borrowed 20 grand from a loan shark where he had to pay back 30 grand within a year. So this was it. This is the pivotal point. Roco had to make the money. That same year, Roco doubled down and started World Industries. World wasn't just a company, it was a Molotov cocktail. Roco's vision? A skater-owned brand that didn't kiss up to the industry. His idea was to cut out the entire corporate industry and keep the money for the people that actually deserved it, the skaters. But if we dig a little deeper, I think we can unveil some foreshadowing. Look, Roco had to make the money. He was in debt to loan sharks now. And so, Steve was willing to do whatever it took to make that money, which is very pivotal for this story. At one point early on, World Industries was running on fumes already. It's financially just flatlined. So Steve Roco did what any self-respecting skate anarchist would do. He hit up a friend for a loan. That friend was Rodney Mullen. Not a banker, not an investor, but Rodney, the quiet genius. Years later, after Mullen wrapped up college, Roco asked if he wanted to go full-time at World Industries. Just like that, one of the best board technicians in human history became the head of the product. Now, picture that dynamic. Roco, a chaos gremlin with a checkbook, and Mullen, a monk with a skateboard. It was Steve Jobs and Wozniak, if Wozniak could dark slide down a handrail. With Rodney Mullen on board, he poached heavyweights that were getting disillusioned with the corporate structure of companies like Powell. World Industries had the likes of Mike Vallely, Jesse Martinez, Jason Lee, Mark Gonzalez, which there are tons of great stories on how they did this, but it was honestly just skaters hating corporate structure. What Steve was building with World Industries was so raw, it was easy for them to make the switch. Powell was hurting. Steve just stole 2 of their biggest stars, with skaters like Rodney and Mike. He knew this, and he decided to go on the attack while they were hurt. World Industries unleashed ads that were straight up warfare. One mocked Powell's logo with a blatant ripoff. Another printed a Disney cease and desist letter like a badge of honor. Roco wasn't selling boards, he was selling rebellion. And I quote, "What is Dr. Seuss going to do? Beat us up? He's a freaking 80-year-old man." But Roco wasn't just a loudmouth. He gave skaters health insurance. That's unheard of in '89. And he built a team that made street skating the new king. By 1990, World Industries wasn't just in the game. They were winning it. And Powell was watching the empire they built get torched by a bunch of punks with Xerox machines and a grudge. So they did what any aging titan does. They launched a smear campaign. They ran an ad mocking the little guys, an attempt to reassert dominance like a silverback pounding his chest. But World didn't back down. They didn't just clap back. they detonated a bomb. One ad. Just one. It was a masterclass in passive aggression. It started by fawning over Powell's greatness, drenched in sarcasm, before gutting them with the punchline. By the way, how do you like our new board designs? Which of course were blatant knockoffs of Powell's own graphics, and just like that, Powell lost the plot. The cool kids switched jerseys. Team World was now the home team, and they didn't stop there. World Industries turned the entire skate industry into a punching bag made of ad pages. And keep in mind, this was long before the Devilman, Wet Willie, or Flame Boy. We're getting to that. But Roco's antics landed him in hot water with some of the magazines at the time. He didn't care about being offensive. Well, actually, that is not true. He wanted to be offensive. Steve knew that provocation and running that line would get him attention, and so, yeah, his ads were a little, yeah. Eventually, the magazines started pushing back. Turns out there's a limit to how much anarchy you can slip between ads for knee pads. The tipping point, Transworld refused to run a World Industries ad that gave step-by-step instructions on how to kill yourself. Yeah, that was the line. Roco, of course, didn't apologize. He doubled down. Which, in a later documentary that is out on Hulu that I'm actually currently watching because I didn't know it existed. Yeah, I'm behind, guys. I am. They stated that the ad on how to kill yourself was just a parody of all the dumb how-tos that were in those magazines at the time, like in Transworld, how to ollie, how to kickflip, how to grind. A lot of the guys kind of were like, I don't know if I would do that now that I'm older, but when I was 15, it was hilarious. But the next issue, World Industries ran a 2-page spread. No product, no pitch, just a question. What now? And the kids, they answered, start your own magazine. Because when the gatekeepers say no, you build a bigger gate. Enter Big Brother, 1992. This wasn't a magazine, it was a grenade. Roco bankrolled it with Jeff Tremaine writing and McKee on art. Issue 1, a total failure. Given away free because, quote, we suck. But it didn't suck. It was skateboarding's unfiltered soul. Part trick guide, part anarchist cookbook, articles on fake IDs, how-tos, and the Depends Olympics, which won't get into because it was quite disgusting. It was gross, but it was hilarious, and it was exactly what the scene wanted. Roco didn't just fund it, he set the tone. His outsider spirit made Big Brother the voice of every kid who ever kicked a no skating sign. Big Brother was Roco's chaos in print form, but it was also a launch pad. It birthed Jackass, with Tremaine and his crew like Spike Jonze cutting their teeth on Big Brother. But by the mid-90s, the wheels started to wobble a little. That renegade momentum, it was gone. Roco, the guy who once torched the rulebook, looked like he had started reading from it. He wasn't around World Industries much anymore, mostly off spending his newly minted millions like a kid in a fireworks store, which frankly made sense. He went from 20 grand in debt to filthy rich almost overnight. But the skaters noticed, and they didn't like what they saw. That promise that Roco made, that this would be a company by skaters for skaters, it was unraveling. Roco had become the thing that he used to mock. So the team jumped ship, not to some mega brand, but to a new upstart called Girl, a spiritual successor, if you would, to the original World. That was a bombshell, a wake-up call. You can't just play the corporate game and expect to win, you have to actually be corporate. So Roco adapted. He hired suits, stacked a legal team, built an art department, and then he pulled a move so slick that it is still taught in marketing classes. Hook the customer before they're even a customer. These guys weren't just mascots, they were bait. They were candy-colored chaos designed to reel in the next generation of skaters. And it worked. Used by so many major companies, the youth-first approach. Within a few years, they were back on top, the #1 brand in skating again, and not because they signed the hottest riders this time, but because they didn't need to. You see, Flameboy and Wet Willie didn't switch teams, they didn't age out, they didn't blow out knees or get poached by rival companies. They were mascots, not human. That was the genius part. You weren't buying a board to support some skater you saw in a VHS video, you were buying your favorite cartoon character, burned into maple and ready to shred. So when a pro rider bailed, it didn't matter. The fans stayed, the sales didn't dip. Because, for the first time in skateboarding, the brand was the star. At the same time, running a magazine and a skate company wasn't cheap. And by 97, Big Brother was bleeding cash. Roco, the ever-pragmatist, was ready to kill it, but instead, a wild deal saved it. Larry Flint, yes, Hustler's Larry Flint, bought it for $540,000, mostly for World's ad leverage. Which we could go into a super big deep dive on Big Brother, but there's also some other great documentaries already produced out there. Maybe one day I will, but check them out. But by 1998, Roco was king again. World and its sister brand Blind were the top two skate brands. But Roco, he'd seen skateboarding's booms and busts. Hell, he'd lived them. So he sold 70% of World for a rumored $29 million to a private equity group. The brand did carry on. Big Brother staggered around until 2004 under Flint. Tamer, but never 100% tame. And Steve Roco's story isn't about skateboards or magazines. He made street skating legit, built brands like Plan B and 101. He had built the first skater-owned company, a company that went on to be the first skate company to be publicly traded. And then he started a magazine that was the inception point for the new kind of entertainment that we all know as Jackass. Whatever you call that style. And you can't forget the chaos that Roco unleashed. The upsets, the innovation, the industry-shaking pranks. The man didn't just push skateboarding forward. He actually shoved it down a set of stairs and filmed the landing. But this is a tale as old as time. The snake inevitably eats its own tail. Roco set out to destroy the corporate suits, right? And he did. One by one, he knocked them down. But in the ashes, standing alone, was him, wearing that same suit, just with a looser tie and a skateboard under his arm. And trying to kill the machine, he became it. So there you have it. That is the story of Steve Roco, and more importantly, World Industries' story. I do know that this channel is built on bicycle love, but a good story transcends the two-wheeled machine. But anyway, I'm not leaving BMX behind, I'm not leaving bicycles behind, but I do think we need to start bringing in other industries with other really interesting stories to bring other people into the sport that I know you all love as well. Let me know what you guys think below. If there's any other industries, I don't care what they are. It could be a fishing industry. If there's a good story to tell, let me know. I love you all. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.